What if I told you that there's a house where time didn't just stop, it rotted? A place where tragedy didn't happen once, or twice, but seemed to echo again and again, like something inside the walls refused to let the past die. A stable boy burned alive in his sleep. A maid thrown from a balcony. A child's fatal fall down the stairs. These aren't scattered ghost stories pulled from imagination. These are the foundations of a place many consider the most haunted house in the entire southern hemisphere. Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed to the Grim Tapes. Because the story you're about to hear isn't just history, it's something that still breathes in silence. And if this is the kind of deep, unsettling truth you want more of, subscribing ensures you never miss what's hiding in the dark. Now imagine this. A grand Victorian mansion, standing alone against the vast Australian landscape. Elegant ironwork. Wide verandas. Perfect symmetry. It looks like something out of a dream, or perhaps, a memory that's trying too hard to appear perfect. This is Monte Cristo Homestead, built in the late 19th century in the quiet town of Junee. To the outside world, it was a symbol of success. Wealth. Prestige. The Crawley family had arrived, and they wanted the world to know it. Locals would look up at the estate with admiration. It represented power, stability, and the promise of a prosperous colonial life. But there was something else. Visitors today often describe it the same way. Before they even step inside, something feels off. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just a quiet pressure, like the air is slightly heavier than it should be. As if the house itself is watching. And that feeling isn't new. From the very beginning, Monte Cristo Homestead carried more than just the weight of luxury. It carried isolation. It carried control. And slowly, almost methodically, it began to collect tragedy. The Crawley family moved into the house with high expectations. Christopher Crawley was a successful businessman, and his wife Elizabeth quickly became known for her strict and somewhat distant demeanor. They had built a life that appeared enviable from the outside. But inside those walls, something began to fracture. When Christopher died, everything changed. Elizabeth didn't just grieve. She withdrew. Completely. The once social, visible woman locked herself away in the house. Curtains drawn. Doors closed. For years, she barely left. Some accounts say she didn't leave at all. The mansion became her entire world, and perhaps, her prison. Servants continued to work there, but the atmosphere shifted. The house grew quiet in a way that felt unnatural. Not peaceful. Not calm. Just still. Like something was waiting. Then came the first of many tragedies. A young stable boy, tasked with working near the property, was found burned alive in his quarters. The details are unclear, but the brutality of it remains undeniable. Fire consumes quickly, but what happened that night has never been fully explained. Was it an accident? Negligence? Or something far darker? The Crawley estate did not slow down after that. Another servant, a maid, fell from the balcony to her death. Some say she slipped. Others claim she was pushed. But by whom? Or by what? There were no clear answers, only whispers. And those whispers never really stopped. The house continued to gather stories. A child, connected to the property, reportedly fell down the main staircase. Fatal. Sudden. Violent. The kind of accident that leaves a mark not just on a family, but on a place itself. Some believe that certain locations absorb trauma, like a recording that never stops playing. Monte Cristo feels like one of those places. And then there's the darker layer beneath it all. There are claims, persistent ones, that a mentally ill man was once chained in an outbuilding on the property. Hidden away. Forgotten. Left in conditions that would break any human mind. Whether fully verified or not, the story has embedded itself into the identity of the homestead. And like everything else tied to this place, it refuses to fade. As the years passed, Elizabeth Crawley remained inside. Decades. She rarely interacted with the outside world. The house became a sealed environment, untouched and unmoving. When she finally died, it was said that her room had barely changed. As if time had simply stopped the moment her husband passed. But the house didn't die with her. That's where things become harder to explain. When new owners eventually took over the property, they didn't just inherit a historic mansion. They inherited everything that came with it. Footsteps. Unexplained. Consistent. Not random noises that can be dismissed, but deliberate movement where no one should be. Lights turning on and off. Doors opening. Objects shifting position. And then there are the more personal experiences. Visitors have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature in specific rooms. Not throughout the house, but isolated pockets, as if something is localized, contained. Some have described the sensation of being watched so intensely that they had to leave immediately. Not out of fear alone, but out of a deep, instinctual discomfort they couldn't explain. Others claim to have seen figures. A woman in old-fashioned clothing, often associated with Elizabeth Crawley, seen near windows or moving through hallways. Always silent. Always just out of reach. There are reports of a young boy's presence. Small footsteps. Brief glimpses. The sound of movement where no living person stands. And perhaps most disturbing of all, people have described physical interactions. Being touched. Pushed. Even scratched. Skeptics will say this is suggestion. That once you know the history, your mind fills in the blanks. That old houses make noise. That shadows can play tricks. And in many cases, they would be right. But Monte Cristo Homestead presents a pattern that's difficult to ignore. Multiple witnesses. Over decades. Independent accounts that share striking similarities. Even people who enter without prior knowledge of the house's history report unease. Specific unease. In specific locations. That's not typical. And then there's the emotional weight of the place. It doesn't feel like a single tragedy site. It feels layered. As if each event didn't just happen and end, but added something to the environment. Something cumulative. Almost like the house learned how to hold on to pain. One of the most unsettling aspects of Monte Cristo is how preserved it is. Unlike many historical buildings that are renovated or altered over time, this homestead retains much of its original structure and atmosphere. You're not walking through a reconstruction. You're walking through the same spaces where these events occurred. The same staircase. The same rooms. The same balcony. That continuity creates a direct connection between past and present. There's no buffer. No distance. Just a thin line separating what was, and what might still be. Paranormal investigators have visited the site, bringing equipment designed to detect anomalies. Changes in electromagnetic fields. Audio recordings capturing sounds beyond human hearing range. Some sessions have produced results that remain unexplained. Voices, faint but distinct, appearing in recordings where no one spoke. Sudden spikes in energy readings in otherwise stable environments. But even without technology, the human experience inside Monte Cristo is often enough to leave a lasting impression. There's a recurring theme among visitors. They don't just feel scared. They feel unwelcome. As if the house itself rejects their presence. And that raises a deeper question. If a place can absorb trauma, if it can hold on to emotional energy, then what happens when that energy has nowhere to go? Does it fade over time? Or does it intensify? Monte Cristo Homestead suggests the latter. Because despite the passing years, the reports haven't decreased. If anything, they've become more defined, more consistent, more difficult to dismiss. It's easy to label a place as haunted. The word itself has become almost casual, overused. But Monte Cristo forces a different kind of consideration. Not just whether something supernatural exists, but whether human suffering can leave behind something permanent, something active, something aware. And if that's true, then the house isn't just haunted. It's occupied. Not necessarily by traditional spirits, but by something created through repetition. Through trauma layered on trauma. A kind of echo that learned how to sustain itself. Now consider this. If you were to stand alone in that house, in complete silence, with no distractions, would you trust your senses? If you heard footsteps behind you, would you turn around? If a door slowly creaked open, would you investigate? Or would you leave, knowing that some places aren't meant to be understood, only avoided? Because that's what Monte Cristo Homestead represents. Not just a collection of ghost stories, but a location where history feels unfinished, where events don't feel like they've concluded, and where the line between past and present becomes dangerously thin. So now the question turns to you. Do you believe places can hold on to what happened inside them? Do you think repeated tragedy can create something beyond memory? And if so, would you ever step inside a place like Monte Cristo, knowing that whatever is there might already be aware of you? If this story made you think, if it unsettled you in a way that stayed with you, then make sure you subscribe to the Grim Tapes. There's a lot more out there that doesn't have easy explanations. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Do you believe the stories surrounding Monte Cristo are real, or are they the result of fear shaping perception? And if given the chance, would you spend a night inside that house, alone? Like the video if you want more deep investigations into real haunted locations, and share it with someone who thinks they don't believe in the paranormal. Because sometimes, belief isn't the important part. Sometimes, it's whether something believes in you.